Imagine you are standing in the middle of a dusty, crumbling room, swinging a heavy sledgehammer against a wall that has not seen the light of day for over 300 years. That is exactly what a local contractor was doing during the routine renovation of an ancient, sprawling colonial mansion in the historic district of Charleston. The air was thick with the smell of dry rot and centuries-old timber. With one final, exhausting swing, the plaster shattered. But instead of hitting solid brick, the hammer broke through into an empty void. When the dust finally settled, the contractor shined his flashlight into the dark cavity and found a hidden compartment, perfectly sealed behind the fireplace. Inside sat a heavy, surprisingly intact cylindrical tube made of tarnished copper, capped with a thick seal of dried, dark wax. And the strangest thing is, the moment he cracked that tube open, he didn't just find an old piece of parchment. He unknowingly unlocked one of the most violent, blood-soaked mysteries of the 18th century. Unrolling the brittle, oilskin-wrapped paper, he stared down at a sprawling, hand-drawn map dated 1715. It was covered in faded, black ink, cryptic landmarks, and dense, frantic handwriting that looked more like the scribbles of a madman than a cartographer. The signature at the bottom sent a chill down the spine of local historians when they were quietly brought in to verify it. It belonged to Captain Elias Crowe, a man whose name was mostly whispered in dark taverns centuries ago, an incredibly brutal pirate who seemingly vanished from the face of the earth. But there's a detail that made everyone involved freeze. This wasn't just a map pointing to a buried treasure. The margins were filled with a meticulous ledger of human lives, detailing exactly how many men had to be slaughtered to keep the gold a secret. To understand why this map is so deeply disturbing, you have to look at exactly who Elias Crowe was and what happened in the summer of 1715. Most people know that year because of the legendary Spanish treasure fleet disaster, where a massive hurricane off the coast of Florida wiped out 11 heavily laden galleons, scattering tons of silver and gold across the ocean floor. But Elias Crowe wasn't a Spanish captain, and he didn't lose his ship in the storm. He commanded a heavily armed rogue sloop that swooped in immediately after the hurricane, mercilessly hunting down the desperate shipwrecked survivors who had managed to drag chests of salvaged gold onto the beaches. Crowe stole an unimaginable fortune from dying men, amassing what would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars today. But here is where everything gets weird. Crowe was a severely paranoid tactician. He knew that any crew carrying that much wealth would eventually turn on their captain. So, as they sailed away from the wreckage, he began a terrifying psychological game. He secretly poisoned the ship's water supply just enough to make the men delirious, and he started whispering rumors in the dark, convincing his officers that a mutiny was brewing. By the time they reached a remote, uncharted cluster of barrier islands to hide their stolen wealth, the crew was already tearing each other apart. The map found in that Charleston mansion doesn't just show X marks the spot. It reads like a confession of a serial killer. Crowe noted the exact locations where he executed his own men, using their buried corpses as macabre landmarks to guide him back to the gold. He wrote things like 10 paces north of where Vance bled out, and beneath the shadow where the gunner hangs. It is a chilling realization that he deliberately reduced his entire crew to nothing more than mile markers on a bloody treasure map. When the map was quietly purchased by an elite, highly funded private syndicate of modern treasure hunters, they thought they were walking into a straightforward retrieval mission. These weren't amateurs with metal detectors. They brought in ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR scanning, drones, and a team of ex-military divers. Using the ancient coordinates and matching them with modern satellite topography, they traced Crowe's path to a treacherous, uninhabited tidal island off the coast of the Carolinas. It is an incredibly hostile piece of land, constantly battered by rough surf, consisting mostly of jagged limestone blades and deep sinkholes that flood completely during high tide. When the team arrived on their cutting-edge research vessel, they quickly realized that the geography was a perfect, terrifying match to the parchment. The landmarks Crowe had named in his twisted journal, like the Devil's Jawbone and the Weeping Stone, were clearly identifiable rock formations. But as they began to survey the island, the modern technology started picking up anomalies that made the lead researchers incredibly uneasy. The radar showed massive, unnatural hollow chambers deep beneath the island's surface, but there were no visible entrances on the land itself. The only way in was through a submerged, pitch-black underwater tunnel system that the ocean swallowed entirely. It became agonizingly clear that Crowe didn't just dig a hole in the sand. He utilized a deadly labyrinthine cave system, turning the island into an impenetrable fortress. The modern hunters geared up in heavy diving suits, knowing they had only a narrow window between the violent tides to navigate a pitch-black, flooded tunnel that hadn't seen a human presence in over 3 centuries. What those divers found when they finally breached the surface inside the massive, air-filled cavern was straight out of a nightmare, proving that Crowe's map was horribly accurate. As their high-powered flashlights pierced the absolute darkness, the beams landed on a rusted iron shackle bolted to the cavern wall, and hanging from it were the skeletal remains of a man. According to the map's grim notations, this was first mate Thomas Vance. He hadn't died in a fight. The heavy chains indicated that Crowe had forced him to march the gold inside and then chained him to the wall alive, leaving him in the suffocating darkness to starve, effectively making his best friend the eternal guard of the first door. As the team moved deeper into the cavern, the psychological horror of what happened in 1715 unfolded before their eyes. The cave was heavily booby-trapped with crude but deadly mechanisms that were remarkably still functional. The modern hunters barely avoided a false floor made of rotting timber that dropped away into a 40-foot chasm of jagged coral, a trap that had clearly claimed the lives of several pirates whose broken bones lay at the bottom. Every few yards they found another set of remains. The quartermaster, the boatswain, even the young cabin boy. It dawned on the entire recovery team that Crowe had systematically forced his remaining men to carry the impossibly heavy chests deeper and deeper into the earth, executing them one by one as they became exhausted or realized they were never leaving. He used their bodies to mark the correct path through the maze of deadly traps, creating a literal trail of dead men. This wasn't a treasure vault anymore. The modern team realized they were desecrating a massive, silent tomb built entirely on betrayal and unimaginable greed. But the absolute climax of this dark expedition, the moment that truly shattered everything we thought we knew about this legend, happened when the team finally reached the central chamber. They used heavy hydraulic tools to breach a massive sealed limestone door, expecting to find an unbelievable mountain of Spanish silver and gold. As the heavy stone cracked open and the dust cleared, the flashlight beams revealed scattered piles of silver cobs and a few dozen gold escudos glittering in the dirt. But the vast majority of the legendary fortune was simply gone. Yet, sitting right in the middle of the empty room, slumped against a rusted, empty chest, was one final skeleton, dressed in the rotting remnants of an 18th century captain's coat. It was Elias Crowe himself. Resting in his lap was a sealed glass bottle containing his final journal. The horrifying twist of fate was that Crowe had been too clever for his own good. After murdering every single man who had helped him carry the treasure, he triggered a heavy deadfall trap designed to seal the cave forever. But the mechanism collapsed too quickly, crushing his legs and sealing him inside his own impregnable vault. He never spent a single coin of his blood money. He sat in absolute darkness for weeks, surrounded by the greatest fortune in the world, slowly starving to death next to the corpses of the men he had betrayed. Before the modern hunters could even process this dark irony, the cavern ceiling, destabilized by their entry, began to collapse, and the ocean water started rushing in violently. The syndicate had to abandon the expedition instantly, sprinting back through the tunnels and barely escaping with their lives, leaving Crowe and his cursed gold behind forever. The island reclaimed its dark secret, violently sinking the cavern and burying the truth once again, leaving us with a chilling thought. If this map was hidden in a wall for 3 centuries, how many other colonial homes are secretly holding the bloody confessions of history's worst monsters, just waiting to be found?